Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Leadership. I'm Dr. Jimmy Turner and I'm glad you're here. In today's episode, we're going to talk about leadership as it relates to management. Now, what am I talking about? Well, sometimes you hear people talk about leadership and management as though they're synonyms for each other. And in a lot of cases they are. And that's okay for you to use them that way as long as you know what you mean when you say that, and so does the person hearing what you have to say. But you also need to keep in mind that a lot of people do see the distinction between what it is to be in leadership and what it is to be in management, or what it is to lead and what it is to manage. That distinction that comes in between leadership and management is going to be important for you to know. So as we dig into this, think about it not just because you have a role to fill in your organization, but because each role that you fill has with it a set of duties and responsibilities. Just because you have a role in management doesn't necessarily mean that you're always expected to be a leader or that you're ever expected to be a leader. So that's why it's important for us to understand these distinctions between leadership and management and what that really means for you. When we talk about leadership, we're talking about, as we mentioned before, that behavior, that action that you take that's going to move other people to do something. In the episode on what is leadership, we talked through a little bit of the definition of leadership and what that looks like. But one definition that I really love comes from the book, The Leadership Challenge. If you haven't read that yet, I highly recommend you put that on one of your next books to read. The authors of that book define leadership as the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. Wow. Think about that for just a minute. It is a want to struggle. When leadership is taking place, it makes you want to engage in a struggle to achieve something. Like right off the bat, that just sounds so antithetical to everything that we're trying to do in life. Like we're not looking for a struggle, right? But actually we are. Because think about the last time you grew in something, you had to struggle to get there. It was a challenge for you to move from where you were to where you are now. It was a challenge for you to grow. Those things are struggles. And so when a leader is doing what they do, they are doing it to make you grow, to make you want to face that struggle that's going to get you to an achievement. I love that definition. Another definition comes from Peter Nordhaus, who is a real prominent scholar and writer in leadership circles. He defines leadership as a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. When we are leading people, when you are leading someone, you are enticing them to achieve a goal. And when you're doing it with multiple individuals, as Nordhaus uses in his definition, then you're enticing all of those people to collectively come together to accomplish that goal. So if we start to merge together those two definitions that we just talked about, leaders are the people who make everyone want to face a challenge, to struggle together to accomplish a common purpose. Wow, what a way to look at leadership. Now, the other side of that coin is management. You see, the leader gets the privilege of setting a vision for what you want to do. Your manager is the one who takes that vision, that guidance, the direction that the leadership has handed to them, and then puts in place the procedures that get you there. They are the ones who execute on what it is has to be done to achieve that goal. Another way of understanding that in management is the way Gallup describes it, and it's that they take what the leadership has given them and they make it actionable at the local level. So that means that within your team, the manager takes that overall goal that leadership has handed to them and says, from where we are, from the role that we play, this is what we do to get there. And so that manager manages the people within their sphere of influence to fulfill their part of the overall goal of the organization or of the team in which you work. One example that helps to bring that together is what we see in American politics. If you look at the role of the President of the United States, the President sets forth an agenda. Their agenda is going to be very top level, very big, very broad in the scope that they give. It's going to be a very visionary type of agenda. The president may come out and say something to the effect of, hey, we're going to reduce the number of regulations that are out there. So in order to do that, I recognize that we may need to put in place certain regulations for the safety and welfare of the American people and the job industry. But for every new regulation that we are forced to create, we're going to find 2 regulations that we can get rid of that really aren't that necessary. And so by doing that, the individual secretary who's over that department in the federal government is going to find the regulations that can go in order to create the regulation that needs to be there. The president is not going to take the time to go through each and every regulation to figure out what to chop. Instead, he or she is going to pass that on to the person in charge of that department. The same way if the president were to come out and say, hey, we're going to cut the total overall budget of the U.S. government by 5%. And then he gives to each department a certain percentage of that 5% they are responsible for reducing in their particular area. Rather than the president going through and changing everybody's stuff, he's going to leave it to the people who manage those departments to do that. So that's where you start to see the application of what leaders do and what managers do. Leaders are going to give you a great big broad vision for what you're trying to accomplish, and then the managers are the ones who get with the people and make it happen. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that's great. I get the distinctions. I see where these roles take place, but why does that really matter to me to know that? Well, one, it's important for you to know what your role is. Are you expected to cast vision, or is the expectation for you to execute on that vision, to make that vision actually happen? If you don't know what your role is in that, then are you going to be doing your job the right way? So it's very important for you to know what the expectation of your role is. If you're there to lead, then you're casting vision, you're setting direction. And if you're there to manage, you're making that actually happen. So that's that difference between what you see in visionary leadership and casting the direction of the organization and the one who's responsible for actually making those things happen. Another reason why this is important for you to know the difference is because everyone has a chance to lead. Now, hear me out. You see, a manager has a very set role that they must play. They're there to manage. They're there to execute. They're there to get things done. But anyone can lead, not just somebody who has a management role. Anyone has the ability to rally people around an idea, to make other people want to join together in that struggle to achieve something. You don't have to be in a role that puts you up here in an organization. You can be in any role to be a leader. So don't give up on being a leader just because you don't think you have the right position for it. Leadership is not about a position. Leadership is about the way that you choose to entice other people to join together in that struggle to achieve a common goal. You might be in a management position right now, but you don't really feel like you're a leader. Maybe you're not supposed to be a leader. Your role in that management position is to manage. You're in that management position because somebody said you're the kind of person who knows how to get things done. And they believe in you enough to know that you can take a team of people, you can use those resources that you have, those human resources, and the resources of your agency to get the job done. That's what you're being called to do. Maybe someone else is being called to be the leader. That's okay. Don't feel like you have to be the leader just because you're a manager. When we started this episode, I promised you we were going to dig into finding out what the difference is between a leader and a manager. And now I hope that you don't just know the difference between leadership and management, but you also know the way it applies to you. Whether you're the manager who doesn't feel like the leader, and now you know you don't have to be the leader, or maybe you're the person who has no fancy title, but you really feel that call to leading, and you know that you're inspiring other people to join together in that struggle to achieve that goal. You know how it applies to you, and you know what you have to do with it when you get back to your workplace. That's all the time we have for this show. I hope you'll stay tuned for our next episode. Don't forget to go on social media, like, follow, do whatever it is you're supposed to do on whichever platform you're using. Get in touch with me by email and let me know what you want to see on the next episode of Let's Talk Leadership.